Austria looks elegant from the outside. Beautiful cities, alpine villages, classical music. But once you actually travel through it, you realize that's only part of the story. Because Austria can feel refined in one moment and completely wild in the next. And most people only see a small part of it. Austria isn't just one kind of destination. It's a mix of grand cities, mountain landscapes, quiet lakes, and villages that feel almost unreal. And for a country that looks so polished, it has a lot more contrast than people expect. More layers, more variety, more range. The kind of country where the version you imagined before you arrived and the version you actually experience are two different things. If you enjoy discovering places beyond the usual tourist version, make sure you're subscribed. We explore destinations a little differently here. Vienna. Start with Vienna, the city most people picture first. Imperial buildings, wide streets, historic cafes, palaces that make the whole city feel formal and grand. Vienna looks composed, almost perfect. But what surprises people is that it doesn't feel cold. It feels lived in. There's history everywhere, but it isn't trapped in the past. You can move from a palace square to a modern neighborhood to a cafe where people stay for hours. People actually use these spaces. They sit in them, walk through them, treat them like any other part of the city. That's what separates Vienna from cities that feel like museums. The history is still there, but it doesn't weigh the place down. And that balance is what makes Vienna interesting. It feels elegant without feeling distant. There's also a quieter side to it. Bookshops tucked into old courtyards, wine bars in cellars, markets that don't feel designed for tourists. Vienna has those too. And the more time you spend, the more of them you find. But Vienna is only one version of Austria. Salzburg. Then there's Salzburg. And the atmosphere changes immediately. Smaller, more compact, more storybook. Baroque buildings, church domes, a fortress above the city. It feels like the kind of place people imagine when they think of old Europe. And with mountains rising in the distance, it almost doesn't feel real. Salzburg is polished too, but in a different way. Less imperial, more intimate. The streets are narrower. Everything feels closer together. You can walk from one side of the old town to the other in minutes. But each street holds something. A fountain, a courtyard, a passageway you almost miss. The kind of city where paying attention matters. And that's where Austria starts to feel more layered. There's a different pace to Salzburg. It draws you into detail rather than overwhelming you with scale. And standing at the top of the Hohensalzburg fortress, looking down over the rooftops and out toward the Alps, that view alone explains why people come here. But the biggest surprise in Austria isn't the cities. Hallstatt Lake District. Leave the cities, and everything slows down. Now you're in Austria's lake region. Places like Hallstatt feel almost unreal at first. A village tucked between a lake and steep mountains. Still water, narrow streets, wooden houses stacked close together. This is the side of Austria that ends up in postcards. And yes, it really does look that good. But what stands out even more is the quiet. The lake itself holds so much of it. Early in the morning, before the day opens up, the water is flat and colorless. The mountains reflect in it. The village looks like it exists twice. That moment doesn't need anything added to it. And there are other lakes nearby, each with its own character. Some more open, some more hidden, some busier, some almost empty. But Hallstatt is the one that stops people. Not just because of how it looks, though it does look like something built for a painting, but because of how it makes you feel. Compared to the cities, this feels completely different. More still, more reflective, more like a place you experience slowly. Quick question: if you could choose one side of Austria, would you go for the cities, the lakes, or the mountains? Let me know in the comments. And then Austria changes again. The Alps, Tyrol. Head deeper into the Alps, and Austria feels bigger than people expect. This is where the country opens up. Sharp peaks, green valleys, villages surrounded by mountains in every direction. Regions like Tyrol are where Austria feels most dramatic. In winter, it's skiing. In summer, it's hiking trails, alpine roads, and open landscapes that seem to go on forever. This is not the careful, elegant Austria people imagine from Vienna. This is rawer, cleaner, more physical. The roads cut through valleys with peaks on both sides. Waterfalls come down off the rock faces. The air changes. You notice that immediately the way it feels different up here. Cooler, sharper, more present somehow. And the villages in Tyrol carry their own character. Timber and stone, painted facades, flower boxes on every window in summer, the same design repeated for centuries. It doesn't feel performed. It's just how things are built here. And it completely changes the way the country feels. But Austria isn't just scenery. Innsbruck, active side of Austria. Then there's Innsbruck, a city that sits right in the middle of the mountains. And that changes everything. You still get a city atmosphere, but nature is always right there. Look up from the main street and the mountains are directly above you. Not in the distance, right there. That kind of proximity does something to a place. It makes it feel more immediate, more connected to something larger than itself. That's what makes it different. Austria doesn't separate urban life and outdoor life the way many countries do. In places like Innsbruck, they exist side by side. Step out of a coffee shop and you're 20 minutes from a trail that takes you above the city entirely. And that creates a very different rhythm, more active, more connected to the landscape. The kind of place where people carry more outdoors than they do anywhere else, where the conversation shifts faster to routes and conditions and seasons. And then there's something that ties all of Austria together: food, culture, lifestyle. Part of Austria's identity is in the details. Cafe culture, pastries, local dishes, a slower pace in certain moments, even inside busy cities. From schnitzel and strudel to mountain huts serving simple food with incredible views. The experience changes depending on where you are. In Vienna, the coffee house is an institution. You don't just stop for a drink, you stay. You read, you write, you sit for an hour, and nobody asks you to leave. That's a specific kind of hospitality. Not loud, not rushed, quietly generous with time. In the mountains, the huts tell a different version of the same story: a bowl of soup and a wooden bench after a long climb. Simple, but it stays with you. And that's really what stands out. Austria feels organized, but it also feels personal. There's formality in some places and warmth in others. And the balance between those two is part of what makes it memorable. The country has a sense of its own identity. It doesn't try to be everything. It's comfortable with what it is. And that confidence comes through in the architecture, in the food, in the way people move through their own cities. So what makes Austria feel so different? It's the contrast. Grand cities, quiet lakes, mountain villages, alpine landscapes, all inside one country that many people think they already understand. But once you actually move through it, you realize Austria isn't just elegant, it's varied. A place that shifts under you as you travel. The version of Austria you experience in Vienna is not the version you find in Hallstatt. And neither of those is the Austria you find at altitude in Tyrol. They're all real. They all belong to the same country. But they feel completely different. And that's the thing about places that look like they've already been figured out. There's usually more to them than the version people pass around. Austria is one of those places. The postcard version is real, but it's only one frame. And that's why Austria isn't just what you expect. It's more than that. If you enjoy exploring places like this in a different way, make sure to subscribe. There's a lot more coming. And let me know in the comments, what part of Austria would you want to experience most?